I want to, kind of go back a little bit too, if it's cool with you, and talk about Daytona. All right. I mean, I know it's tough, but it's tough on all of us. But I remember that day in Daytona. I called him that morning, and I said, "Good luck, man. Wishing luck, and I'm going to wish you luck." And he goes, "You coming to the race?" I said, "No, I'm not coming to the race." I said, "But I'll be there tonight afterwards to spend the night on the boat." And he knew what that meant, because if he didn't win at Daytona, or one of his cars didn't win at Daytona, he was the first one on that plane headed to Mooresville, right? He was going home. So when he won the Daytona 500, I finally got a hold of him about 10 o'clock that night, and he was well into the celebration, right?
Yeah.
And he's like, "Where are you? Why aren't you here? You need to be here with me." I'm like, "Hell, I can't. It's 12 o'clock. I'm 60 miles away. And by the time I get there, it's going to be 12 o'clock. I'm going to get drunk. I got to be back here at 5 o'clock. I said, I can't make it." He goes, "You should be here. You should be here with me. You should enjoy this with me." And I made a point from that time on that if he ever won, or one of his cars won, I was going to be there. I was going to enjoy it with him. So I called him that day, told him I'll see him that night. He laughed, said, okay. He knew what that meant, that either he was going to win, or you were going to win, or Michael was going to win, one of those two, right? Or he's going to be gone. So the race is going on, and I'm sitting there like timing it, right? All right, we got 5 laps left. Mike's winning. Dale Jr. second. Big Dale's third. Oh, man, if Mike wins this race, I'm thinking to myself, what a party we're going to have tonight. I mean, Mike's never won a race. We're going to have a blast, right? We're going to have so much fun. We get down to the last lap, and boom, that's when everything happens, right? Well, Michael goes on to win. You finish second, right? So I'm thinking, well, Dale's going to be pissed, but we're still going to have a blast. Mike's won. I mean, your dad really got to enjoy Michael Waltrip, and we were going to have fun, right? So I'm thinking to myself, okay, I'm going to give it an hour, and then I'm going to get in my car. I'm going to Daytona, because he's got to put Mike's car in. He's the owner. He's got to put Mike's car in Daytona, USA the next day. So I'm looking at it, and then they pan back to Kenny Schrader, and Kenny walks up to the car, puts the window net, and jumps back and goes like this. So I'm looking at him, going, what the hell is going on, right? So all of a sudden, they got people all around the car, and they're looking at it, and they start cutting the roof off. And I went into severe panic at that time. I mean, severe. Because a couple of years earlier, your dad was racing at Talladega, and Ernie Irvin clipped him, right? Hit the wall sideways. They hit in the windshield of the car, and the car just blew up, right? And they wouldn't even show the car on TV. They kind of figured the worst. All of a sudden, they pan to the car, and they're pulling your dad out like the back window, right? And he's all hunched over, and he's all bent up. Gets in the ambulance, and I finally hold him that night. And I said, "Man, are you all right?" And he goes, "Man." He said, "You know how they say things really slow down in those situations?" Because it was like slow motion. I hit the wall. I could see the sparks coming up through the window net. I could see the cars coming at me. And he said the car hit my windshield. If it hit the roof, I'd have been done. But it hit the windshield and just exploded. And he said by the time I got stopped, I'm trying to figure out what pieces I have left, right? So I said, "Well, what's going on?" He goes, "Well, I got a broken collarbone. I got 3 broken ribs and a split brisket." That's your dad, right? Split brisket. I said, "You dumbass." I said, "Broken collarbone, broken ribs, split brisket. Why are they pulling you out the back window?" He goes, "Let me tell you something." He goes, "I will never allow them to cut my roof off. I don't want my family. I don't want my friends. I don't want anybody to think that I'm in trouble. So if you ever see them cutting my roof off, you know your old buddy's in trouble, right?" So I went into severe panic at that time. And like the old cartoons, I went in 4 different, boom. I mean, one arm went that way. I'm just panicking, right? I run and I get in the car, and I'm driving to Daytona, and I get a hold of Mike Collier. And I said, "Mike, what's going on?" He goes, "I don't know. They just took him to the hospital. I don't know. I'll let you know. I don't know." I said, okay, all right, well, let me know. I'm on my way. I said, if he's got to spend the night in the hospital, we'll spend the night in the hospital. If we get to go back to the boat, we'll go back and have a good time. He goes, all right. So about a half hour later, we just passed a sign that said 30 miles to Daytona, and the phone rang. It was Mike. And Mike said, he goes, Ned, he's gone. And I said, gone? What do you mean he's gone? Where'd he go? He can't go anywhere. He's got to put the car in Daytona, USA. He can't be gone. Where did he go? What do you mean he's gone? What do you mean he's gone? Where did he go? And he goes, he didn't make it, right? I pulled over, and I must have cried on the side of that road for a half hour. Went back home, and I think I cried all night long, right? By the time I got up the next day at 4:30, I went into the ballpark, and I got right to the door, and I just broke down crying again, right? But it was a weird feeling because I could hear your dad say, knock it off, So I kind of got it back together. And that week, the only salvation that I had during that time that I could kind of really live with this was we had gone on a hunting trip to Iowa in December. And I remember watching the Winston Cup banquet. He finished second, and he finished his speech, and he said, all right, I'll see you all next year. I'm going hunting. And I was sitting downstairs in my basement all by myself, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm going with you, all right? So I fly in to Iowa the next day. He had already been there. Him and Mike were there. They went into town. So I was sitting there talking to the guy that owns the farm, Don Kiske, and I could hear the door open. It was your dad. And he walked in, and I'm talking to Don. Right? Well, your dad came over, and he put his arm around me, and he kissed me on the cheek. And I hugged him, and I'm thinking, okay, this is cool, I guess, So I'm hugging him, right? So we're hunting, and we're having a really, really good time. After the second day of hunting, it snows 16 inches, right? So your dad had a sponsorship deal with Budweiser in Texas, and him and Mike were trying to talk about, is it safe to go? Is it safe to fly, And Bill Jordan's over there in the corner going, you can't go. No, you got to stay here, Dale. You can't go. Too dangerous. Nope, too much ice, too much snow. You can't go. You can't go. And Mike and Dale are talking. They're talking. And Bill's saying, you can't go. Too much snow. You can't go. You can't go. And finally your dad had enough. He turned around and goes, Bill, shut the hell up. He goes, I'm trying to make a decision over here. He said, I got a sponsor that is waiting for me to be there. It's a $10 million sponsor. You don't give me $10 million bucks. You stand over there, shut the hell up, and let me make my mind up what I need to do. All right, well, Bill sit there, got like real weird in the room and quiet, right? Well, Bill kind of hunched down like this. Well, I jumped up. I said, hey. The only reason he's saying that, there's only one reason. There's only one reason we want you to stay, all of us. And that reason is we love you. That's why. We love you, man. We just love you. We don't want you to leave. We love you. You're a great friend. You're fun to be around. We love you. And I walked over and I hugged him. He got this big smile on his face, right? Well, Bill Jordan's still sitting in the corner going, well, I don't feel the love. but when it was all said and done, I got a chance to tell him I loved him. And that helped me a lot, to get through it. But going through that week, it was tough. But the worst part of it for me was Rockingham. And the reason for that was your dad would never miss a race. It didn't matter what. I saw an interview one time, and they asked him, Dale, if you couldn't be a race car driver for some reason, what would you do? And your dad looked right in the camera, and he goes, I'd be a race car driver. He wouldn't miss that race. So when your dad wasn't there, I knew it was real.
Yeah.
And that to this point on, I wore number 3 in memory of him because what he taught me and what he helped me achieve. I don't think I would have achieved near what I achieved without him in my life, and how I got the opportunity to be around him and learn from him some of the stuff that that I learned. I don't think I would have had near the success that I had.
Yeah.
So,
do you look back on that moment where you're in that hunting lodge and you told him how you felt about him? Do you look back on that moment, like you say, like you're coincidentally or unknowingly, you're able to tell him in that moment something that
it was weird, Dale.
Yeah.
I mean, he's never put his arm around me and kissed me on the cheek. I've never told him that I loved him.
Right.
When I watched that race, and I still kind of flash back to the way he put his arms around you before the race and hugged you and was hugging Teresa, I've never seen him really do that before to that extent.
Yeah.
You know, it was real. It was just kind of surreal, you know, at that time because, you know, going back to that night in South Carolina, I just didn't think that he could get hurt. I just didn't think he could. I just thought that he was, you know, I just thought he was bulletproof. Really.
Yeah.
Really just, I mean, and to this day, I think about it all the time, how proud he would have been of me when we won the world championship. But more than ever, when I look at you now, I just can't even imagine how proud he would be of you, the man that you've become, the person that you become. I mean, we talked about it earlier. You were so shy in the early days. You wouldn't even look at me. You wouldn't talk to me. You know, it was just it was hard to get any engagement out of you. And I mean, look at you now. Look at the man you've become and look what you've accomplished. And everything that he ever wanted for you back in the day, you've become it, you know? And I just can't imagine how proud that he would be right now with his granddaughters and with, you know, what you've accomplished and what you're doing in your life right now. I just think that he would just be beaming.
If you like that conversation with Ned Yost, you ought to listen to the entire interview because the Dale Jr. Download is available on all major podcast platforms.